Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Apologize for not getting an update out. I've been still fighting with a lot of microphone issues, and if you ever want to find something that make you want to jump off a bridge, just try to experiment with all the microphone settings that are possible, including all of the codecs and everything else, which is just, and the noise cancellation center. So hopefully the quality of this one's going to be a little bit better. It's been quite a struggle. Anyway, I wanted to cover this chart here. If you follow my blog, you'll notice that I pointed out that I said that 2850 had to be breached for a bottom to be put in. Now you can see the trend line that made me call for that 2850. What I was saying, actually it was breached, but it reversed immediately. What I was looking for was for 2850 to be moved through to the upside and continuous move up, something like this. Now that didn't occur, but it only corrected about maybe $1 or so from there. And you can see we've opened up tonight with a decent move, and it is up above this trend line. Now will it reverse like this one? It may, but that's what you have to remember about these decreasing trend lines, and I'll show you as we move out, that when you have a drop off, it's the same thing when you have a parabolic rise, the slope has to get steeper and steeper. If we just move sideways in time, we actually will eventually break the downtrend. So I'll show you that on a farther out view so you can see what I'm talking about. If we go back to the, well, let's go all the way back to the 48, the May SmackDown, and I'll show you how that rounding off thing works. So this is a primary trend line from that SmackDown. You can see it accelerated from here, and we got a new primary trend line, something like this. Then that trend line accelerates into where we're at right now, something like that. So if we drop from here, you may see a trend line that goes like that. So they tend to round down, and of course, as they're rounding down, any type of sideways move, if it's maintained, will ultimately break that trend line. So we're looking for the trend lines to be broken. First one here appears to be the beginning of it being broken. And then the next one's going to be, as I pointed out, it's at 3150 when we go in to the close shot. I think it was on the 10-minute. Anyway, that next line comes in around 3150. Well, all my lines are messed up now. There it is, 3150. So there's a number of lines here that need to be broken for these downtrends to be taken out. And that's how we get a bottom. Will this be a bottom? I didn't really think it would be because the volume was so much larger on this last one. But again, we can't really see. We can only guesstimate by the size of the spike. We can't really see because we haven't been getting volume information. So it's just kind of dead. Again, I don't know why that is. We're just not getting any volume information, whether that's the fault of Netdania, or whether that's a problem at the COMEX, or whether that's a problem at Globex, or the LME, or I don't know. The TOCOM, it could be any one of those things, but we're not seeing volume. Now, I haven't bothered to go and check the CME to see what they're reporting on the COMEX futures volume. But so I didn't think that this would be a bounce that would hold, but it's possible it could be. You don't usually get double bottoms like this, but it could be. Each one of these downtrend lines that we break through gives us more and more likelihood that we're going higher, because that just breaks through resistance and breaks through a lot of the technical barriers. So we did hit 2850 and then turn down, but we're looking for a rise here through this trend line as it begins to have a time decay on it. We'll keep a close eye on that one. I didn't have a lot more. Like I said, I've been dealing with my blog, and I haven't been able to make a video because of the microphone issues, so hopefully that's cleared up at least somewhat better. So I'm going to take you over to the blog and start off with a blog roll. I wanted to point out some things about the blog first off, and I've put a RSS feed. Well, I've got an RSS feed link up here at the top for those of you who use RSS. It's basically a way of getting an alert every time there's an update. So that's what RSS feed is used for. Now you can also do a update by email. So if you click on this link here, which is subscribe by email, it'll take you over to a FeedBurner link, and that's just a place where you put in your email address, and then you put in this little CAPTCHA, which it keeps them from being spammed by computers. But put those in, and then what that'll do is that email, every time I do an update to this blog, it'll send you an email. Now, it won't send you everything, but it will send you quite a bit of information on that. It's not going to send all the pictures, but you can get links to get back to it. So that's something for someone who doesn't have the capabilities of receiving the RSS feed, or they don't know what that is. It's really pretty easy. You can go to Google Reader. There's a lot of other things that you can do to find that. A lot of people, I don't subscribe to RSS feeds myself. I just like to go to the blogs that I follow. But anyway, that's for people who would like to get updates by email. Of course, if you follow me on Twitter, you can get updates on Twitter. Those post every time I post a new one. There's a post there, and I think they also post on Facebook as well. I don't use either Twitter or Facebook for a lot, except for those are things that people use to follow people. So let's go through some of the postings on the blog. The one that I've pinned at the top, and that's because the Iowa elections, the Iowa caucuses are going to be tomorrow, is this video about Ron Paul. Is he electable? It's really funny, and it shows you in a funny way all the people who have a big interest in stopping Ron Paul, and of course it's a lot of people with a lot of money on the line. So that's that one. There's a Zero Hedge covering the deficit. Basically, Spain admitted that they were lying. And there's an interview with Chris Hedges. This is very interesting. Now, he's on the left side, but he's kind of one of those old school leftists. He's got some very interesting observations, so I encourage you to watch that. This is a news article about how the Iranian currency has slipped to a new low, a 30% drop on that. That's, of course, with the United States sanctions against them. It's an article about how they're predicting that the euro collapse will begin this year. Latest interview with Jimmy Rogers. It's not a video, but it is a written interview, and of course he's looking for systemic collapse somewhere down the line. The latest predictions from Simon Black. This is an article about militarists and the drug wars, and how these people are opposed to Ron Paul. And this is the SGT Bull interview recently done with Bix Weir. It's a very good listen. I suggest you listen to that. Economics Without Statistics. This is from, I believe this is from Lou Rockwell. No, it's 24-Hour Goal. It's Nathan Lewis. But this is about how statisticians have an incentive to pervert the statistics, and it's probably better off that we don't even keep them. This is the latest Dollar Vigilante, the year in review. There is an article I linked about the metal theft that's going on in Britain, and I put a chart here that is a chart of the British pound versus the Japanese yen. I made the comment that it might have something to do with the fact that the British pound has been cut in half against the Japanese yen. So maybe that's why a lot of the metal in Britain is being carted off to Asia. Here's the Financial News Hour. This is an interesting interview we've got with James Koutoulas, I think is how you pronounce his name, and he's one of the attorneys on the MF Global thing, and he's, to say the least, righteously indignant against JP Morgan and their shenanigans in this. If there is a, what would I say, a Satan of the financial world, it has to be JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs. It's going to be a close run between those two as the most evil bankers on the face of the planet. So that's a good interview. The other, of course, the year in review with Puplava. And this is an article about U.S. drones and a lot of the killing that goes on with them and some of the unintended consequences and how it's a bad thing. I've put the lyrics at the bottom to one of the Crosby, Stills, or actually Buffalo Springfield songs. If you click on the Obama picture, War is Peace, it'll take you to that song on YouTube. There's another article from Financial Sense. It's called Financial Narcissism. I put a little map here that gives you an idea of how some Americans look at the world. This is an article I did that is a unbelievable video on what I've been afraid to blog about. You're just going to have to watch it. It's very hard to follow. It's very fast. But it's about drug money dollarization and how the ESF, according to this fellow, used the ESF used drug money dollarization to basically stem the tide of dollars that would end up flooding back into the United States and causing hyperinflation. And it's a very in-depth video. I encourage that you watch that. And I've put the lyrics for Stevie Ray Vaughan and a live concert footage from him in Tokyo back in 1985, which is the music pretty much describes a flood coming in. And I did a kind of a joke video on the end of the year, the final countdown. You may or may not want to watch that vid. Now, of course, we've got our technocrat from Europe here. There's another dollar vigilante that I have there. There's Harvey Organ. There's the latest one from GATA, and ex-Fed governor confirms gold price suppression. Nations ponder their escape from debt. That's the latest Bob Chapman. There's an interview on King World News, and that's with Richard Russell. There's Gary North's You Are Washington's Collateral. And the most recent Office series that I've done, this is about mining shares. I actually have another video that I've done on mining shares, but I wanted to do an Office series on it. And I believe Bix Weir talked about the same issue today, the idea that people don't even take into consideration the fact that there are failures to deliver, and the DTCC, I think it is. Anyway, it's the Depository Trust Corporation that is responsible for delivery of short shares, and that there's actually a potential for counterfeiting of mining shares. So, and I list some other factors. I encourage you to listen to that one. And this is the article I did for the end of the year, and this I think is a very important article. It is the powers that be are screaming at the top of their lungs, you need to get out of paper. Now, I list 4 reasons here. And the 4 reasons are the Bear Stearns bankruptcy, the GM bankruptcy, the May flash crash, and MF Global. And I encourage you to read this. I go over the message that they're sending. The message from Bear Stearns was markets do not set the price of stocks, the Feds do. The message from the GM bankruptcy was bonds are worth what the government says they are. The message from the May flash crash is that all paper can go to zero in an instant. And the message from MF Global is no customer brokerage funds are safe from outright theft. So I encourage you to read that. And that is the blog roll. Since I haven't had a chance to update it, I haven't gone and looked for coins, but I'm going to do that next time. I think we're probably going to see rally for the next few days. We may even see a really violent rally. It may be possible that the powers that be were looking to make some kind of year-end impression, and we might just get a big bounce right at the beginning of the year. It's quite possible, and we'll talk to you next time.